Hello. Welcome if you are in a room at St. Paul's here, and welcome those online, including Isabel, leaving at 4 o'clock for Birmingham, so we'll try and get it done by then. And yes, it is going to be absolutely melting in Birmingham Arena, and we're all sat here not feeling at all jealous, are we? No. Take your earplugs, take some Yorkshire tea. Be all right. And but thanks for joining us, Isabel. So if you've not been to this before, so I know we've done stuff at St. Paul's, the other St. Paul's in Norton Lees, with band and stuff. So this started as a sort of live stream thing during the lockdowns in COVID. And I think just trying to create a space for anybody who is into alternative music, metal, goth, whatever, but also either, alternative kind of, or identifies with alternative musical subcultures, or in any way has just felt a little bit different. A space where hopefully you can just be who you are, explore, I guess, spirituality, faith, hope, but through kind of heavy music. So there are some words that we often share. So it's, I guess, the word, although it's middle of the afternoon, but using the stuff from the evening, which is compline, which is basically in a monastic tradition, the night prayer, the last thing that would be said. And also because it's night prayer, it felt more metal and evening and gothic. So it was trying to produce a pattern and a rhythm of words and of music, a bit like monks would have had the same kind of prayers. The idea being that sometimes, depending on how you're feeling, you say these familiar words, but you know that on days when you find it difficult to say them, you know that others are saying them kind of on your behalf, or sometimes those words kind of speak themselves back to you, and maybe that's that sense of something more than something more than the physical, something spiritual. So basically, it's a very long-winded way of saying you are welcome.
You're welcome here if you're she, he, we, or they. You're welcome here if you're gay, straight, or working it out. You're welcome here if you're in a relationship, single, divorced, or widowed. You are welcome here if you're inked, pierced, both, or neither.
You're welcome here if you're young.
Or young at heart.
You're welcome here if your neurons like to be typical or like to be spicy. You're welcome here if you're more Christian than Colin from Witch Hazel, or haven't got the whole faith thing yet.
You are welcome here if you're living on a prayer, or could use a prayer right now. You are welcome here if you've got it all sorted, or if you've got doubts. You are welcome here.
Oh, that was really big looking at my own face there. That was unpleasant. Well, I'm sorry it was for everybody else as well. Good grief. See, metal can be scary, especially when you have to look at me. I invite us to kind of just acknowledge that we're together, whether we're in the building, whether we are online, whether we're watching this now or whether we're watching it in the future, which would be now the past. So I invite you, if you want to join in with these words.
As moon rises, the sun slips sight. Begins the ritual of this night. For those convinced their path is right. Gathered from north, south, east and west, yet called at another's behest, those treading the path that is left. From near and far come as you are to this place and embrace this space as darker hue embraces you.
Afternoon, Hugh.
Spirit, earth and fire, confessing the sins of empire, we come with our wounds and desire. Sensing that we are not alone, drawn to the flame that guides us home, for here, you, me, and yet to be. Importance and signs of these times, for the sake of all those maligned, is yet the home of the divine.
So it's fun if you're joining us online, as you know, to if the words appear in yellow and you want to join in, especially, Isabella, if you're going on a coach maybe to see Iron Maiden, just sort of launch into it in a really loud voice and scare the people next to you. Or any form of public transport is always appreciated. It's not, but it's really funny. So we do this thing. I guess part of being together is just sharing the realities of life, because there's some difficult stuff, but there's also some really good stuff. And to kind of encourage each other and to share those things, even if it's just finding one thing from this day or from this week that has kind of given you a sense of hope, a sense of joy, that has kind of reminded you about the stuff that makes you you, the stuff that you bring to the world that just makes the world a better place because you're in it as you are, and the things that you kind of love and appreciate. And I do recognise that sort of being thankful, whilst in church terms is quite a kind of common thing, but in terms of metal terms, it doesn't sound very metal, does it? Kind of, thank you, yes. So there's a thing called, it began as battle metal, and then it became, I guess, kind of Viking metal. And that sounds much more metal because it's Vikings and it's kind of running around. And so there's a word that means not just thank you, but almost like 1,000 thank yous. And it's in Norse, which is Viking, therefore more metal, you see. So we have a phrase which is Tusentak. And so just going to play a bit of music. And if there is something that you are kind of appreciative of, that's given you hope, that you've really enjoyed, invite you to think of that. And if you're willing to, if you're online, to share it in a comment on YouTube or on Facebook, or if you're here, I'll give you an opportunity to shout it out if you are willing to do. Or you can come up here and say it into the streaming camera and the microphone if you want. No pressure to do that, but just an opportunity to share good stuff, to encourage each other, acknowledging there's lots of other grim stuff in the world as well. So let's look for kind of hope and things alongside that. So what are you thankful for this day?
too shall we be downcast too. Or stand shield to shield, together in the field. We refuse to yield. Steadfastly holding the line, full of wings in eternity's time. We keep pressing forward until the last, and our cry shall be forever. Choose attack.
So let's go. Comment. Hey, Donna. So yeah. Wow. We thought it was hot. We thought it was hot in Northeast Derbyshire, stroke Sheffield. It's hot in Whitby. That's Hild. I've left her at home. But it must be really hot in North Carolina. But awesome to be with you. Hope you're okay. Hope you're both okay. And we're thankful, Isabel, that you would take us all to Iron Maiden if you could. It's still possible. I'm just saying. So in person here, Neil was giving thanks and being grateful for carers and for family and how we kind of work together to support each other. Because we're all different, we all have different skills, all have different kind of interests, and actually sharing those together, we can help each other and all be part of stuff together. And Millie, you were thankful. Duracell batteries.
Yeah.
Do I want to ask why?
Because they power the fan fans, and you can put regular batteries in them, and they don't work as well. So if you put Duracells in them, it means it goes like 100 times the speed.
So then you get like a super powered fan with Duracell batteries. Obviously, we're not sponsored by Duracell. Happy to be sponsored by Duracell, or anybody really. No, I don't mean that. We are funded through the Methodist Church. Thank you, Methodist Church. Yeah, I think anybody's thankful for a fan. In fact, Donna, have you got a hand fan? 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's about, it's about
We're doing some conversions.
degrees.
How much?
38 degrees Celsius.
Oh. Is it sometime this week? It was supposed to hit nearly 40 here. That's mad. That's
Yeah.
It's 40 in France at the moment.
it's 40 in France
I mean, on average, it's been about 85 to 90 Fahrenheit.
for a while. That's
You don't survive in Africa.
no. So
You're too young to do it.
I know this guy.
so Donna's giving thanks for air conditioning. Yeah. So is there anything else that people want to share that they are thankful for? No pressure
I'm
to.
thankful for being able to go wild swimming at 2 a.m.
Awesome. Was that deliberate wild swimming, or did you just fall in?
Then we went swimming afterwards.
Oh, okay.
And she goes every morning for the past week.
That's yeah.
Crazy.
Uh,
That's good. You're welcome.
Oh, love you too, Donna. Thank you. So yeah, I guess I'm thankful that we can gather and do this, and that anybody's come online and in the room, plus new people, which is brilliant. Thank you. So I invite us to whether we've shared it or not, but that, whatever it is that we're thinking of, for which we're kind of grateful, that's given us hope or joy, that's rocked in a cool way, just kind of set our souls back on fire again. Invite you to share in the words choose and tack, but just saying choose and tack, whilst it might be Viking, doesn't sound very Viking, so I encourage you to say it in your best death metal voice. If you don't know what a death metal voice is, it's something like this. Choose and tack! Right? So I invite you to say together on the count of 17, choose and tack. 17, choose and tack! But maybe as well as good stuff, maybe there's difficult stuff in your life or in the lives of people you love and care about. Recognise there's lots of not good stuff in the world going on at the minute as well. But just maybe to acknowledge some of that. So I guess it's like for people who journal, I guess keeping it inside yourself, it just kind of eats away at you maybe, but sometimes expressing it and getting it out, sometimes it loses some of its power maybe, or you can kind of, certainly I find I can acknowledge whatever it is that's kind of bothering me, and it just feels like I can get a different perspective because it's outside of me in some way, not churning around in here. So again, just a moment to reflect, I guess in our own heads, and then an invitation to share anything that feels safe and appropriate to do so. What is it that is heavy and not in a cool metal way for you at the minute? What is it you want to lay down or turn away from, or just rest from, I guess?
As the light fades from sight, all is lost into darkest night. Sticks and stones,
Cool. I love it when people are in the room and comment as well. That's brilliant. Cool. Thanks, Donna. Yeah. So thinking of and praying for your 94-year-old dad recovering from surgery for skin cancer. Oh, man, and tuberculosis. Good grief. That's a lot for him, for all of you. And we join with you with the cloud of witnesses as well. So, and Tina, thank you. Yeah, those who are kind of working for churches and struggling with burnout, because it's full on. And I guess churches have a history of trying to be good news to people and to make a practical difference when people are struggling. A way of expressing God's love and care is by caring for others, and I guess there's lots of stuff economically at the minute that just means that actually there is more need than ever, and it's hard, and we are grateful for those who give of themselves for the sake of other people. Is there anything else anybody in the room wants to share? I'm going to lay down the fact I'm not going to Iron Maiden. I couldn't afford it, and I couldn't hear it anyway. So no. So.
I laid down the fact that I got FOMO from watching everyone at Download.
Oh yeah, yes. Well, I saw somebody wearing a Download T-shirt in Tim Hortons in near Crystal Peaks this week, and suddenly went, ah. See, Download have a chaplaincy team. Did you know? So maybe one year we can go.
Is that a hint?
Yes, that might be a hint, yeah. And I know that Order of the Black Sheep go to Bloodstock and look after people who've overdone it slightly and then help clear up afterwards. That's their kind of church family weekend. Okay, so yeah, Donna's grateful for the annual conference. Praying for colleagues here. Yes, so the Methodist Church in the UK, Great Britain connection of churches is about to have its conference. So Dave's here, but he's about to go and do conferencey things. So just grateful for all those who facilitate that and all the decisions that are made at these events, and that kind of sharing together and discussing graciously and hearing and listening graciously, discerning what God, the divine other, the universal force of love might be saying to us at a time like this. So if there's anything that is weighing us down, then I invite us to lay those things down and turn away from them, or to, even if it's just laying it down, knowing you've got to pick it up later, knowing that you don't do it on your own, that we've shared this time together, and that you aren't alone in that. So I invite you, if you want to join in with these words.
The principalities and will to power, the worms from within my own darkest hour. I confess all the regrets and the regrets, the burdens and fears, the lament and the tears. I lay them down.
And I believe that as we lay those things down, that the divine, the other, the all-parent God, in the person of Jesus, the original long-haired bearded dude from Nazareth, comes running out to meet us, arms open wide, saying, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, even if you're not going to see Iron Maiden, and I will give you rest. May rest and peace and wholeness and hope be yours in the way that you need it." Amen. Sorry, I'm just rejigging things, which is never a good idea. I almost knew what I was doing, and then I tried to change it, which is just a disaster, really, isn't it? I know no one's surprised by that. So I think it's time for reading from the Bible. What is metal? So metal, it's made of paper. The Metal Bible. So if you've never heard of a metal Bible, so a metal Bible is not made of metal. It's a paper copy of the New Testament, and it's put together by a metalhead in Sweden who translates it and gets it translated rather into languages across the world, wherever there are people who like heavy metal, and they go to Iron Maiden gigs in South America. They go to Wacken, in massive, biggest metal festival in the world, I think. Unless that's Rock in Rio, but anyway, and go to these places and give out these Bibles. And sometimes it gets quite interesting because you might have bands doing, like, I don't know, Behemoth or Gorgoroth doing sort of black mass on the stage, and they're down the bottom handing out metal Bibles, and then sort of Hell's Angels come running towards them, and they end up hiding behind a skip. So it sounds like a right wheeze, but it's full of testimonies from people in the metal scene, so people from Megadeth and Iron Maiden, and people like Alice Cooper, but also Christians who play kind of Christian metal as well, with prayers and things. So if you're interested, they're at metalbibleinternational.com. So I was just going to share this reading. It's really short, like me. People were also bringing babies to Jesus. When the disciples saw this, they rebuked them. Does that mean just told them off? And does that mean told them off? Rebuked. Yeah. Always read the lesson first so you can understand the words in it, James. But Jesus called the children to him and said, "Let the children come to me and don't hinder them, for the kingdom of God belongs to such as these. I tell you the truth, anyone who will not receive the kingdom of God like a little child will never enter it." Sometimes sort of reflect on that, but to think what that means to you, how you hear that. Maybe it's words you've heard before. Is there anything that struck you differently hearing those words today? I guess the reason for sharing it is that part of being into metal and alternative cultures and lifestyle and goth stuff is you're not always welcome. We don't always feel welcome. And there are many stories of people being treated really, really badly. Not just out on the street for the way you look, which people feel obliged to sort of wind down their windows and tell you what they think of how you look. What? Who's bothering who? But even perhaps in church, and maybe sometimes as church, as Christians, we have this fixed idea of kind of what it is to be a child of God, what it is to be a custodian of God, to be made in God's image. And actually, God's vision is much broader. God's vision includes everybody. God created and said, "It is good." So I wonder how sometimes those of us of a particular faith sometimes prevent other people from hearing hope and love and truth and welcome and inclusion because of age, because of appearance, because of abilities or perceived lack of them, because of the way brains work, all of those things. I think sometimes we are very keen and we value and kind of put on a pedestal those who are pillars of the church or the community, but you know what they say about pillars? They hold things up and stop people seeing things. I thank you. I'm afraid that joke was the whole point of sharing that reading. Never mind. I just want to share this song. It's a song some of you might know. So for the first time, apart from we're at Norton Lees, an opportunity to join in with some singing, if you would like to. Near here in Dronfield, another church up the road, St. Philip's, do a Sunday evening thing called Resonate. And this is a song that they use there quite a bit. I think we've sung it here during Holy Week at St. Paul's with guests and students from Cliff College in the Peak District joining us. But this is a metal version. Well, metaler, more metal, rockier version. So just a chance to reflect on what it means for you as you are regardless of what you think of yourself, regardless of what other people say, well, you're not good enough, or you're not this and you're not that, so therefore you can't come in, you can't come and see Jesus, that actually Jesus himself tells those people to get out of the way and kneels down and sees you and meets you as you are, where you are. What does that mean for you? So feel free to sing along if you would like to.
One might of the highest king, oh, will welcome me. I was lost, but he brought me in. Oh, his love for me. Oh, his love for me. Who the sun sets free. Oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Free at last, he has ransomed me. Oh, his grace runs deep. While I was still a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, he died for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, it's free indeed. I'm a child of God, and yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. The sun sets free, oh, it's free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am.
Is there anything that anyone wants to share in response to the Bible reading? No pressure too.
Cricket noises. That's what's going on. Crickets.
There are many things in the life of me, and I expect all of us, that we wish we could do, or we wish we could do better.
Yeah.
But we never forget our best is good enough for the Lord, and our best is good enough in the name of love.
Yeah. There's a U2 song in that, Neil. Isn't it? Yeah. Pride in the Name of Love. Yeah. That. So just for those on the stream, just in case didn't pick it up, Neil was just saying that I think sometimes, and I guess we're all our own harshest critic, maybe, but I think plenty of other people feel obliged to point out our faults as well. But frustration at ourselves, things perhaps we wish we could do differently or better, but that actually we are a child of God as we are, and that we are enough. And I know it's attributed to Nelson Mandela, but I don't think it was his original words. He was quoting somebody else. And and I can't remember the full bit, but he talked about, this is kind of thinking of apartheid South Africa and that struggle for freedom and equality, to be fully recognised as part of God's creation, as part of God's good creation, as members equally and fully of the one human race. And saying to people who'd always been told that they were inferior, less than, and perhaps even not recognised as human. And, you know, post-colonial empires such as our own kind of acknowledge our part in that story and repent of it. But he said, who are you not to be amazing? Who are you not to shine? Who are you not to do all these amazing things? Because you are a child of God. And that actually we are honouring God when we are fully ourselves and all that we bring to the world. And I guess part of kind of Methodist stuff is around St. Hild of Whitby, also a good place to go on retreat, particularly if you manage to go during Goth weekend. Just make sure it's not silent. I strongly recommend going for Goth weekend rather than folk weekend, because the bank holiday Monday, you cannot move for Morris dancers. Nothing against Morris dancers, you know, but it's yeah. Cool. Thank you, Donna. Wesleyan scholar. Donna, even Wesley recognised we have limits. Yeah, wrote a letter to Elizabeth Ritchie and said, when you do what you can, you do enough. And I know Wesley gets quoted, and what was the Methodist Relief and Development Fund changed its name to All We Can because of this saying attributed to Wesley, John Wesley, of one of the founders of Methodism. Do all the good you can to all the people you can by all the means you can in all the ways you can wherever you can. And I, for years, heard that as you must try harder, you must do more, you've not done enough. And actually, it all depends where you put the emphasis. Do all you can, or do all you can. And perhaps it's doing what we can and allowing others to do what they can. And between that, it's like Mary anointing Jesus' feet with perfume and being told off by, you know, the people who wanted to sell it and give the money to the poor, which is, you know, completely worthwhile, all those things. But Jesus tells them to shut up. And he looks at Mary, who's done this act of love, and says she's done a beautiful thing. And maybe when we do all we can, then that's the beautiful thing. And it's blessed and becomes more than we could imagine. So, yeah, thank you. So no, Wesleyan scholar, Wesley nerd, both are cool. Yay for nerds. Blessed are the geeks. I think Jesus said that on the Sermon on the Mount, along with producers of all dairy products. I've completely forgotten what I was doing, which is most unlike me. Oh yeah, One Love, Bob Marley. So I don't know if people can hear that. It isn't Bruce Dickinson. It's very close, but it's Neil. Yeah, thank you, Neil. So yeah, I was talking about Hild, wasn't I? Yeah. So I went on retreat. Well, yeah, it was a retreat during my sabbatical to Whitby, and wanted to learn about Hild. I had quite a spiritual experience during quite a not good kind of depression sort of thing. And so I wanted to kind of find out why, you know, the fact there's been this monastery on the top of that cliff, and the monastery that's there replaced one that was previously there. But there's something about the Abbess Hild, who looked after this monastery, who just modeled something really, really inclusive. I think, I mean, in those days you didn't have, you know, convent for nuns and monasteries for monks. You had one. There were men and women in this thing, and in the evening they would gather around, whether you lived in the local village, whether you were the blacksmith, whether you looked after the animals, whether you were the local Saxon prince who was travelling around, whether you were the abbess, whether you were a sister, whether you were a brother monk. They would gather around the fire in the evening and share stories and songs. And she called it this little village of heaven. The fact that everybody was at the same level when you sat around at a table eating, when you sat around a fire. And I guess there's something about the story of Hild in that way, of allowing everyone to be seen and welcomed and included and recognised as a child of God. So that is why, in a non-iconoclastic kind of way, it is only appropriate, I think, that we take a moment to hail St. Hild of Whitby, who, Whitby being in Yorkshire, she likes a good cup of tea, Yorkshire tea, from a pot, having warmed the pot, plenty of time to mash. So I invite you, whether you're at home, whether you've got your cup, to raise your cup or your teapot and hail Hild of Whitby. Skål. Mr. David Burt on the organ. It was my organ. Dave's playing on tomorrow, yeah. Is there anything that we bring as in full prayer? I'm not sure whether you're somebody who prays, maybe you're not, but I guess, I don't know, the word prayer, I guess other words might be mindfulness, reflecting, wondering how you can make a difference, wondering what might make a difference to a particular situation in your life, the life of somebody else that you care about, the life of your local community, or even the world, in terms of things we can try and make a difference to by sort of, whether it's campaigning or marching or supergluing yourself onto something in a protest. Hello, Joyce. Good to see you. Hope you're all right. So just a chance to think if there's things we want to bring as and for prayer or thought or hope or, I guess, lament as well for ourselves, for the world, but also thinking about how we might be part of the answer to somebody else's prayer through who we are, what we do, the way we spend our time, our money, our energy. How can we be part of that message of welcome and inclusion that Jesus offered to children, to each of us, no matter who we are.
open wide, with pierced side. Within defeat, hiding a peace, eternally. When striving cease, stay with me. Pray for me. Arms open wide, with pierced side. Crown of thorns for all my scorn. I feel your breath as you love me to death.
Ah, that's amazing, Joyce. Excellent. I'm not on commission from the Yorkshire Whitby Tourist Board, but I can recommend really good guest houses and cottages. Oh, it's brilliant. That's fantastic, Joyce. Is there anything that people want to share that's on their minds or hearts in terms of praying for people in the world? Just continue to think about. Yeah.
All those who are suffering with the situations in the world, in Russia, and in the Middle East,
Yeah.
and Far East,
Yeah.
and also for those suffering with the bad situations that they have in the West also.
Yeah. Yeah, all that stuff in the Middle East and Iran and as well. Russia, Ukraine. Yeah. And those who are trying to make a difference but are just, burnt out or but wondering how we can treat each other the way we do as human beings sometimes. So I invite us to make our offering for this day to the All-Parent by sharing in these words.
To the one in whom all people and all creation have their being, may your kingdom come, your will be done, as above, so below. Sustain us for this day. Show us grace as we seek to show grace to those we feel have wronged us. Save us from the worst that is within us, and within this world. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen.
So just before we end, I guess, whatever your experience has been, whatever your views are of yourself, whatever your life has been like in terms of the words and deeds of others, that Jesus does in that Bible reading, Jesus says, "You are welcome, you belong." So I want to share something that those at a particular baptism last week will have seen before, but just to remind us that, we are welcomed and known and named and included by God, and that we do belong.
belong.
This is our story. This is our song.
We belong.
So thank you for being here, online or in the building. And the words of that Joe Elliott from Def Leppard uses at the end of every gig. Until next time, and there will be a next time, thank you. And go well, feel free to stay from the drink if you're on site. Feel free to go and make yourself a drink, only if you're drinking Yorkshire tea, obviously, because he will be upset if you're watching online. And, you know, there's a moment in rock gigs usually where they take it down a bit and they kind of put acoustic ballady numbers in, which is my least favourite bit of any gig. And in the 80s, 90s, used to go to gigs, and back when people had like lighters, and then people would wave the lighters in the air, and then you kind of get this whiff of burning, and then you realise it's your own hair that's on fire from the person behind, and then somebody decides to sort of tip their drink on you to put you out. But now things have moved on, and so when you go to gigs, people tend to kind of watch the gig through their phone whilst filming it. But when these ballad, when these ballad comes on, when he's ready, when the ballad comes on, then people put their torches on and kind of wave them in the air. So an opportunity to just wind down and to share. If you've been to a huge gig, or it's a particular sporting thing, but that sense of when you're in this huge crowd, not alone, not a faceless person in the crowd, but that sense of togetherness and belonging, and it stays with you, and it carries you through the kind of return to kind of the day-to-day and the realities of that. But the fact that we are together and we carry that experience with us. So if you wish to, if you're online and you get your phone torch out, please do not wave it to oncoming traffic. So yeah, an invitation to sway. I love the fact there's people swaying on their way to see Iron Maiden. There's people swaying down south. There are people swaying in the US of A and in Dronfield. But also, what I don't love is the fact that, yet again, I managed to press the wrong button, which is the button that I played the thing, rather than pressing the button that ends the stream whilst playing the thing. So let's pretend that didn't happen. Now we've had a practice, and sway until next time.